Good evening, everyone. Take some time today to really focus on the parable in today's gospel, that parable of the greedy rich man. And if we focus on it, we're going to notice that there is one word or one type of word that is repeated very frequently in this brief passage. And that is the first person singular pronoun is used 10 times in these very brief lines. There was a rich man, of course, and he asked himself, "What shall I do? For I do not have space to store my harvest." And he said, "This is what I shall do. I shall tear down my barns and build larger ones. There I shall store all my grain and other goods. And I shall say to myself, now as for you, you have so many good things stored up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, and be merry." Even the 2 times he uses the second person singular of you, he's referring to himself. So in this brief 3 lines, this man refers to himself 12 times. 12 times. And so we can say that maybe the real issue is not this man's greed, but his self-centeredness, his narcissism, his putting himself above others. But is this what lies at the heart of greed? Narcissism and self-centeredness. To a degree, it's important, but I think if we pay attention to the gospel, we're going to see that there's something deeper, something more important. And we'll notice that if we look at the dialogue or the conversation this man has, he has with himself. Now, I shall say to myself, look at all the wonderful things that you have stored up. Rest, eat, drink, and be merry. So what is he doing? He's having a conversation with himself. It's not a dialogue, it's a monologue. And what we point out here, we see, is there's no one else. This man has completely isolated himself. He has insulated himself from others. There's no relationship. There's no community. There's no friendship. And this, I think, is what lies at the heart of greed. Not the narcissism, but the isolation. When we cut ourselves off from others and authentic community and relationships. Some studies have shown, and you can find them online if you look around, that isolation and insulation, especially from those in need, sort of insulating yourself in your neighborhood with your family and friends. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but cutting yourself off and not putting yourself in touch with others, particularly those in need, tends to dampen generosity, the giving instinct that we have. But if we are put into contact with others, the poor, they're put in front of us, it elicits empathy. We connect. And as a result, we are more likely to be generous. This is the problem with the rich man. He has isolated himself. He has no dialogue partner. Everything is a monologue. And as a result, he has no contact with others, the poor, those in need. And therefore, his heart begins to shrink. There's no empathy. There's no relationship. And it becomes easier for him to be greedy. And it's the same with us today, who are wealthy by the standards of the world, some more than others. We often have very little contact with those in need, whether it be the poor who are starving in another continent, whether it be those who are homeless, or whether it be the students that are in need of faith, our family and friends. We can encounter them sometimes in a mission trip or visiting the homeless shelter or coming and getting involved in ministry in some way, shape, or form. Those who don't believe, who struggle to believe. And as a result, because of that, we find it much easier to be generous once we've had those encounters. But it's not just the relationship with others who are in need, with whom we might dialogue and therefore be generous to them. It's more general than that. Relationships and community in general, being part of that web of being with others tends to make us more generous. Think of it. We are much more likely to support a charity if a friend asks us, hey, this is something I'm passionate about. Why don't you consider giving? We're much more likely to do that. Studies have also shown, and maybe it's the crowd instinct, that if we see others giving to a certain cause, we're much more likely to give. And I think this is what makes the crowdfunding sites like GoFundMe so popular and so effective. You can see sort of in real time as people are giving to this. You know who are giving if they give you your name, and you want to be part of this. Well, part of this great cause, whatever it may be. Much more generosity in a group. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves, of an important project, to contribute, especially if others are giving too. They're not giving alone. And I can tell you that particularly over the course of, let's say, the past several months, I've seen this played out in reality. I heard a lot of talk from myself or Father Dupre or others about our capital campaign. You know, people are not starving here, the students or the parishioners, but there is a real need. If you come here and you're a student, you'll know if you live here. Our facilities are over 75 years old and they are in need of constant repair. But more specifically, Our Lady of Wisdom was built when there were only 2,000 students total here at UL, at that time SLI. And then now there are over 19,000. 10,000 of those are Catholic. And because of the growth of the ministry, we simply are not able to accommodate all the different groups and ministries we have now. And we know if it keeps growing, it will not be suitable in the future. And so even though we've just started ramping up, talking to alumni, benefactors, parishioners, and even students, sort of excited about the project. This is something very big, the biggest thing that sort of has ever happened at Our Lady of Wisdom. And people want to be part of it. They want to have an impact on the lives of students today and, of course, those in the future. So we've got a lot of positive results, a positive feedback, partially throughout the whole entire diocese. As you know, the diocese is doing their own capital campaign, and $5 million of that is going to go as sort of the first gift towards wisdom. And the diocesan campaign is very successful. People are passionate about that and the other goals of the diocesan campaign. But just in the short amount of time that we've really been focusing on our own capital campaign, whether it be myself or staff or leadership, parishioners, going out and talking to other people, just from about 130 people, we've been able to have pledges of $2.8 million. And we've really only just begun. It shows the excitement. And that's not counting the total of about 50 students, recent grads, seminarians, who now, because I've been talking to them, pledged over $40,000. Students giving small amounts, $501 over 5 years. Recent grads were calling it lagers and lattes. $5 a week, but you pay for a beer, a cup of coffee, to go to something greater over the course of 5 years. And people have been generous. And we're going to hear more about it. If you're interested to know more, you can come talk to me after Mass. I'll be happy to sign you up. People are being generous here and throughout the diocese because they see the necessity, but they know they are giving to something that is important. They're part of a community of those who are giving. It's something much bigger than they are. And that's why I want to encourage the parishioners here today. This is, I'm speaking to people who I know are registered parishioners, and the students and recent grads. We have about 400 parishioner families in this parish. Even though we're a student ministry, we are also a fully functioning parish. And I'd like to see every family in the parish pledge. Right now, the giving in the diocese, the diocesan campaign, is about 20% of each parish. I want to see 100. What the impact that we could have to show that we as a parish think this is something important. Most families, I believe, if you're a registered parishioner, have received some sort of notification in the mail. And I ask you to prayerfully consider a sacrificial gift given over the course of 5 years. You may say, Father, I can't afford that much. That's understandable. You've got to search your own heart. But I ask, give what you can, because what matters is participation. That 100% that we'd like to see get involved. And if you've given and you think this is important, please share it with others. Connect with others who are alumni. Bring them out of isolation to be part of the group of givers. It's a profound witness to others of how important you think the ministry is and how important your Catholic faith is. But going back to the gospel, listening to all this, whether it be with the capital campaign or any of the generosity that we are called to, there's always the temptation to remain in isolation, to cut ourselves off from others, from relationships, from these larger projects. So I invite you in general to get connected here and elsewhere. Reach out to other people. Here, get to know the students. Get more involved in the activities of the parish. We've got a lot going on. Be a part of something bigger. Your community, your church. Here, Our Lady of Wisdom. And the project is the biggest thing that Wisdom has ever seen in her history. It's going to make a big impact on others, on our society, on our church, and on Our Lady of Wisdom. You can't change things if it's just one person or two. But if we get together and we connect with others and are part of a deeper community, we can have the impact, a big impact on people today and in future generations, and of course for wisdom for every generation. Amen.